Going live and going live. I know it's working because I'll be on Twitter. I'll see it pop up. Alright. What is going on, guys? Just give me 1 second before we start going on this tonight. So this is going on too. On air, so alright. Everything looks good. Cool. Alright, guys. Alright, give me 1 more second. And alright. Hey guys, welcome in. My name's Steve Pintato. I am the host and owner of the Fantasy Coaches podcast. If you haven't seen our podcast episodes, they're all over the place. We're very active over on Twitter. If you haven't checked us out yet, over at Coaches Fantasy, Little Football podcast that kind of does a little bit of everything, trying to make a big name for ourselves. And we're in the month of August, starting today. It's August 1st. It's been a long 3 or 4 months now with everything going on in the world, and football is back. So I figured it's August now. By the time September rolls around, we'll have a pretty good understanding of what everything is going on in the football world at that point, at least. But I thought it'd be fun to do a little 32 teams in 32 days, 1 team per day, every single day, Monday through Sunday, however you want to do it. Times will vary over the month, but planning on trying to do them sometime usually after 7 p.m. Eastern time and beyond. So hopefully you guys can tune in and kind of give it a watch. So, a little bit about me. I've been, the host of the Fantasy Coaches podcast for the last year now, a little over a year now. We've had some great names come on our show over the year, a lot of fun names. I recently just became a expert ranker on the, Fantasy Pros expert concession site, so I'm really looking forward to compete with some of the big leagues who use Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings this coming year. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm not gonna waste any more of your guys' time today. We're gonna get right into it. We're talking about the Washington football team. Yes, I'm going on with the trend that it's no longer the Redskins. It's just the Washington football team. Hopefully they have a cool name by the time the 2021 season comes about. So looking forward to that. But basically what I'm going to do is going to be about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to try to just talk about as many players, or it could be less, depending on what team it is, but just as many players we can possibly have that are fantasy relevant. I may, bring up a little bit of dynasty, maybe a little bit of, CQB, Superflex leagues. I might bring up some of these players that may fit in that category just a little bit better. So we're going to start with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, second-year quarterback, after being first round pick in the 2019 draft. Got a lot of work on his hands. He came in as a raw quarterback, 1 year starter at Ohio State. Was someone who was very accurate, dazzled that 1 year. Looked like a guy who could have gone in the top 5. As we all know, he slipped to the Washington Redskins in the mid-rounds, and the rest is history. But rookie year, not so great. As we all know, he came in about week 6 or 7 for Case Keenum. Didn't do that well. He was not worthy startable fantasy quarterback whatsoever. But then week 15 and 16 came, and he started picking things up a little bit, and you can tell. Granted, the defenses were the secondaries at least were a little not the best, a little, downgrade from what was really going on. But, he threw 31 for 43 times, 394 yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, not the worst, especially for someone who really doesn't have a chance to really shine too often. This was a really cool thing. And seeing him able to perform at this level, you have hope for him. And then you go on and bring in, Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, a really respected coach in the industry, does really good, over his career, especially with Cam Newton, who we've always known Cam Newton is not the best thrower in the world. And Haskins can throw the ball. It's just that, first year, not that confident. Things didn't happen as we all wished to. But then he brought in Scott Turner with him. And Scott Turner has been all around the league. And this is the most important part. Offensive coordinator Scott Turner. And, Scott Turner has done some pretty remarkable things in his career. First off, he was there in Carolina early on when Cam Newton was a rookie. We all knew how Cam Newton was very a fantasy god his rookie year. A lot of rushing. I don't think Haskins has that same rushing floor, but he was very involved in that. He was very involved in the early on of Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Bradford's accuracy years in Minnesota. And, he's just done some good things with good receivers over the time. He was there, and then Josh Gordon had his one season that people just seem to not be able to get over. Hey, Cal Terry, thanks for joining. As you know, guys, I am streaming on Twitter, I'm streaming on YouTube, and I'm streaming on Sportscast. I'm kind of streaming everywhere right now to do this. So, kind of trying to get as many people the information out there as I can. But listen, Dwayne Haskins, I think, has the right front office now, or at least the coaching staff that is a strict, no bullshit. You're going to come in here, you're going to compete kind of stuff. And I think that's going to be good for Haskins. He didn't really have that before. I just think Jay Gruden is as good of an offensive coordinator as he may be. I don't think he's as good of a head coach per se to be able to be a leader, to get a young guy over. I know he did that with Kirk Cousins, but Haskins really needed that strict coaching style. And I think what he has now, I think is really going to really help him get to that next level. So, what's Dwayne Haskins' 2020 outlook? Again, he's someone who I'm very high on. If you're in a 2QB league, a super flex league, whatever, him as your third or second quarterback is someone I'm really looking to target. In a one quarterback league, unfortunately, he's basically undraftable. I wouldn't want to draft him. There just hasn't been able to show much success in seeing Haskins being able to do it yet. So I'm not going to go out there and risk my, number one quarterback on that. But if you're in a super flex or a 2QB league, I think things can turn around for him. He's got a better receiving core now. Yes, they lost Kevin Harmon this offseason, but again, he's got Terry McLaurin, he's got other players we're going to talk about in a very little bit, but he is someone I'd be intrigued about because I just think he didn't really get the shot. The team kind of was a run-first approach when they threw Haskins in there. If you remember, AP was running like 25 carries a game. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen this year around. I think they're going to be a little bit more pass-heavy. The defense is still building. They're in a not tough division, but they're in a division where their secondaries are not very good. So I think he's got an opportunity to really succeed in a full-time starting role now. The offseason wasn't really there that he would love to have this year, but again, these guys are professionals. They got the job done. So Haskins is definitely someone in the Superflex and the Super QB league who's very interesting because he could be a guy who kind of bounces back or makes that jump that we didn't see in year one that people aren't just on right now. And I know the offense is still not that good, but I think he has a real opportunity to see some decent numbers. Someone who, probably is maybe the 30th ranked quarterback on a lot of experts right now and could finish in the top 20. That's the kind of ceiling I think he could have because he's a really good passer. And again, the rushing isn't there, but I think he could really surprise a lot of us in 2020. Rest of the quarterback situation, Alex Smith, congratulations to him, coming back after, that terrible leg injury. He has a shot. Honestly, again, that's why Haskins is a bit of a risk because I can see Haskins taking that jump, but I can also see him filtering out and, Ron Rivera's like, no, I'm done. I want Alex Smith for the year. I don't know how that's going to happen. I doubt it. Well, it does happen, but it'd be funny if Alex Smith, not funny, but really a good story if Alex Smith is able to get back in the game there. Really, really deserves a shot at another chance, at least be on the field one time, even if it's just a kneel down. Kyle Allen's there again. We've seen Kyle Allen. He's been somewhat of a successful quarterback, but he had a fantastic core with him in Carolina. I don't see him doing that same successfulness. 17 touchdowns, 16 picks. He didn't really shine to prove that he can do more with less. And going over the running backs now. We'll get in time here. We're about 8 minutes in. We're going to speed this up a little bit. Adrian Peterson, guys. Darius Geis, Antonio Gibson. These are the top three guys in Washington. You have DJ McKissick, more of a passing down guy. Wouldn't really worry about him. Peyton Barber, he's kind of does a little bit of everything, but not very good at a lot of things. He's a guy you're not worrying about either. Bryce Love is definitely an interesting option. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe sees some work at some point this season. Tremendous athlete, but tremendous running back. But the injuries are really a killer, and I don't expect him to really stand around and see a big production unless some of the big three we're about to talk about get hurt. So here's a name who's kind of off, but a better dynasty kind of hold for now to see if he maybe turns up. Adrian Peterson, he's an RB5, RB6, probably an RB5. I think he still has an opportunity in his offense here. I know Darius Geis, everyone's like, oh, he's going to take it over. Antonio Gibson is there. Well, Antonio Gibson, for one, he's playing multiple positions. He's not going to just stay in running back, so he's not going to see all the running backs. carries, especially with Kevin Hartman now out. This probably opens the door up for, Antonio Gibson to see more passing work, especially in the slot role, or maybe just, when you do double slot, he could see more opportunity now, which I really like about that. Antonio Gibson is definitely a later round pick for sure. I would love to take a shot on him. If you guys play defense and kicker, I would rather have Antonio Gibson on my bench and see what he's able to do the first 1 or 2 weeks and see what goes down. Look for another way to get that defense kicker on your team. He's definitely a later round guy who I'm wanting to take a shot on because he could turn into something real special his rookie year if he gets on the field. Again, he's a tremendous athlete over his career. Again, he has, 14 touchdowns and just 77 touches in college. That's pretty freaking good. And you're going to look at a guy who has high upside if he gets more work at some point because injury-prone injuries. Darius Geis is for injury-prone. So we'll not talk about him right now. But Darius Geis, guys, I'm not high on Darius Geis at all. I know a lot of people love Darius Geis still, but the kid played a combined 5 games and going into his 3rd season. Not very good. Again, injuries, ACL tears, whatever. But no, again, as a fantasy football guy, hey BB, black and red, what's going on? As a fantasy football guy, I don't want anyone who's injured. I just don't. It's just why put that headache on yourself? I don't like it. It's better not to just take Darius Geis. If you can give Darius Geis to someone else, I would. Again, value is value, but it's just that, again, he didn't even do that well last year when he saw opportunity. Yes, he had 1 game he was an RB1. It was against the Carolina Panthers, and AP had a RB1 performance as well. And if you remember correctly, by the end of the year, Carolina was one of the worst rushing teams in the league. He had a 45-yard touchdown in garbage time in his career during the season. He's got tremendous speed. He can catch the ball at the backfield, can break away crazy, but the injuries are too piled up. He's, someone that you're probably getting in rounds 9 and 10, and I'd rather just stay away from it. I'd rather just not deal with it because you're just losing an opportunity at that time to grab someone else who could really step up. Again, Darius Geis has an opportunity in him, but I don't see it. I personally don't see it. I think he's going to have to split time with a lot of these running backs here. Not going to get over the top, and you're going to be kicking yourself if you pick him at round 8 or 9, which his projections, a lot of them are going at that point. Me, I have him at 9 and 10 right now, but people taking him around it, you're going to sadly be mistaken that he's going to get hurt again or not see that. He's going to be limited, and that's what I think is really going to happen. He's going to see 6 to 7 carries a game, and just do that. See if you can just work on that. Get that done for this season. Try to just be on the field, and that's the important part that Darius Geis needs to do, just to stay on the field. I don't think giving him a big workload is a smart idea. That's why Adrian Peterson is still there, and AP, I believe, will see at least 150 carries in the season. You said 211 last year. I see at least 150 out of him. I see him having maybe, 3 or 4 RB2 games when he scores a touchdown. I don't see him being a big fantasy contributor, and he's someone you guys can get almost late in drafts. He's going around 14 right now. You want to scoop this guy up as your RB5 because Darius Geis gets hurt 1 game. AP's going up almost probably 20 carries again per game, and that's what you want to see. And AP Peterson, as old as he is, I think he's at 33 now. The kid can still run. And he's not a kid anymore. He's an old man, but he can still run with the ball. I would rather take a shot like that as my RB5 right now than take Darius Geis as my RB3 right now. That's just how badly I just don't see him doing that. He had 11 breakaway runs with 15 yards or more last year. He had the 2nd best Duke rate in the NFL last year, and AP just can benefit by getting a lot of running with the ball, and I think you can see that. You've seen Ron Rivera over the years have a really strong run team, so definitely worth a shot going for a guy like AP later round. Darius Geis is definitely willing to stay away from. Antonio Gibson's willing to take the late round risk on. And going over the wide receivers. The wide receiver core gets a little easier now. I think Cordy Latimer is on the exemption list now for the commissioner. Kevin Hartman, we all know, got towards ACL, and he's out for the year now. But now we're over to the last 3, the wide receivers now, guys. And I'll start with the bottom up. Antonio Gandy Golden. Guy, man, fantastic wide receiver at Liberty. 2 years there, man. Lit up the game in college, game highlights all day. Massive catch radius, fantastic hands. This kid was fantastic. He had a little slowness on his route running. He isn't a fast burner, but what he can do with the ball when he gets it in his hands, or just being able to get the ball in his hands, is really interesting. And he's going to probably see a lot more work now with Kevin Hartman out of the game because they don't really have a lot of depth at wide receiver. And again, that's why I said he's third on the list right now, because he has an opportunity to compete for playing time now as a rookie. And again, crossing Terry McLaurin, they need some bigger body guy. And Danny Golden could be a surprise. We talked about Terry McLaurin last year in the mid rounds. Danny Golden Gibson, another guy who was in the mid rounds. He could be a guy who kind of just breaks out early on. I mean, he has an opportunity to see. Would I be shocked if he had almost 900 yards this year? No, not at all. That's why he's definitely someone I'm willing to take in. Oh, thank you for the popcorn. I appreciate that. And the tip, I appreciate it too. I don't know if that's the same, but I'll take it. He's definitely willingly a guy you want to see if you can grab in the late rounds. See if he's involved in the offense early on. They're going to be behind the games. They're going to have to throw the ball. I know he didn't get a lot of time in practice, and I'm a guy right now in fantasy who's not willing to take a lot of rookies early. But if you get Danny Golden in like the last round of your draft, maybe the 15th round, take a shot on him, because he could turn into something real special early on in the year. Steve Sims Jr., second-year guy. This is a guy who was mostly a kick returner most of his season. He had a couple games you saw. He had a couple kick returns, and I was like, "Who's this guy? Man, he's fast." And I was like, "Oh, it's Steve Sims." I'm like, "Oh, I like the first name. That's my name, Steve too." But yeah, okay, I like to see what this kid's able to do on the field. Didn't get to see it much, and then Trey Quinn went down. Their slot or wide receiver. I'm sorry. And from week 14 to week 16, this man had 28 targets. He's a top 15 wide receiver. Haskins was the quarterback. Lucas did some chemistry build there. I think he deserves to have a shot at that slot role hard. I know people are talking about Trey Quinn right now. Trey Quinn, he's nothing great. Steve Sims is a fast guy who can catch the ball. 56 targets on the year. 4 touchdowns. He had, during those 3 weeks, he was a top 34 receiver. Like I said, all 3 weeks, at least one each week. He's definitely someone in that round 12 to 14 range, my wide receiver 4 or 5, I'd love to grab, because I'd love to see what he's able to do having a full workload and a full, starting job this coming season now. And I think with Kevin Harmon even being out, that definitely helps him. Hey, thanks for joining, Nick. 1011, AMC 1011. Hockey Mom Lisa, thank you for joining. I appreciate that. Yes, Steve Sims, definitely worth a shot on in the middle rounds there, because he can do a lot with the ball. And then going to the last guys, Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, guys. I mean, we all know Scary Terry really well. He was definitely someone who we're really trying to get ahead here. I'm almost done with that, guys. Another 3 minutes. Man, this guy came out of deep week 1, just put on a performance. The first 6 weeks of the season, he was a top 10 wide receiver. Had 4 games over 14 fantasy points or more. Had 5 touchdowns in that span. Man, he was on fire. And again, that was a lot with Case Keenum, unfortunately. So there's somewhat of gotta, understand why was he so good off the gate. Case Keenum was throwing the ball. And in weeks 7 to 13, he was wide receiver 69. Just 33 fantasy points in that time. Had to deal with, Richard Sherman, Tre'Davious White, Darius Slayton. So there's some concerns with Terry McLaurin. He's a fantastic dynasty prospect, just like Steve Sims and Danny Golden. But going into 2020, I wouldn't draft him so high. I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 2 off the bat. I mean, you can't. It comes with a little bit of a risk. Again, he kind of picked things back up a little bit down the stretch when Haskins started to get a little more comfortable in the offense. And he had 3 straight games right there during the playoffs. So again, he was a top 6 fantasy receiver, 47 fantasy points. So again, it looks like, he is able to really do a lot when Haskins starts to settle down. And it really comes down to Haskins' ability to take that next step where Scary Terry goes. I mean, he was ranked number 1 in contested catches with 68% of bringing them down. Man's got to get good speed all around, better production, better core around him than the first half. And again, his second best receiver at the time was Trey Quinn. And Steve Sims came on, Kevin Harmon continued to grow. They got really talented rookies now. And he could do a lot more with the ball. And he's definitely someone, I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 2 if I could make that option. But if he is. I think he's got hey, Mitch Sports, what's going on? Who's going to be better this year, Washington or the Bengals? It's got to be the Bengals, Mitch. I mean, Joe Burrow, you saw what he was able to do last year. The wide receiver core is it's so much better. The defense, they're probably not as good as Washington, but, well, to be honest, if you're talking about football, the Redskins probably have a better shot because of the division they're in. If it's, the other way, if it's the Bengals, they have a tough division. But in terms of fantasy, I think you're going to get better production out of the Bengals than you are going to get from the Redskins because just the amount of weapons the Bengals do have on the field. So that was a really great question. Fantasy Bengals, NFL Redskins. But going back to Terry McLaurin right now, and again, he's definitely someone you want to draft because he can put up big performances. Just don't take him if you can with your wide receiver too. I think he's a better third option on your team than having him as your second option. Better as a flex spot that can rotate kind of than having him be a strong wide receiver two for your team. I think he can be a wide receiver two by the end of the year, but I'd like to see Haskins do it, because Haskins only showed that sparkle at the end of the season. And again, at one point, Case Keenum came back in the game with Terry McLaurin, so there are some concerns there a little bit. But I think he can get over the hump with Haskins on the field. So, and then last but not least, we're here almost at the 20-minute mark. I went a little over, but I was doing an intro, guys, so I'm going to take that time away here. It's the tight end position. Logan Thomas has opted out, so he's not in the season. I had some, maybe a little hope for him. Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son, guy, hit 1 year at LSU. I didn't realize that he, played ball elsewhere, but 1 year at LSU. And again, he was okay. He had, a decent ability for him. He's got good hands, good ball control, ability to block, but he doesn't have that really athletic profile. He doesn't have that burst, speed, or agility to be a downfield threat. So he might be better as, he might be in there more of a run blocking when they do run than to be an actual threat in the passing game. So I don't really see him being a very valuable fantasy option year one unless injuries occur and he has to be thrown in the starting lineup. Good dynasty stash to see if maybe he can kind of turn into something. He works with the teams a little bit. He's a guy who has a lot of potential. He just needs to find it. So interesting to see what he does there. But the one guy, again, and this is for deeper man leagues, and I'll be real quick with this one, guys. We're just about out of time here. Jeremy Sprinkle. Jeremy Sprinkle has been around the league for quite a while. I think he's in year 4 now. He's a fantastic blocker. He's got athletic traits to get downfield. That was kind of being buried on the depth chart the last couple of seasons. Remember, Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis were there the last couple of years in Washington. And both are gone now. So I think Sprinkle's going to see that Fulton's name isn't, very active, but I think he got a good shot. I mean, you saw Ron Rivera produce tight ends over the years with Greg Olsen, and Greg Olsen is a Hall of Fame guy. I don't want to compare the two whatsoever, but he's been very productive with, tight ends, especially, we've seen Ian Thomas flash at times. So Ron Rivera knows what he's doing with tight ends. And Jeremy Sprinkle, I mean, he could be someone who sees some very heavy workload down the stretch here. Again, they lost Kevin Harmon. He could be the guy that actually steps up over the rookies right now because of the way the offense is going. So I wouldn't be shocked if, Sprinkle comes out of the gate early with a couple of decent outings that you can like, hey, what's going on? Well, I will be doing every single day here doing these 32 teams around probably 8 to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern there, Mitch. I also do podcasts as well, and they're usually released every Tuesday and Thursday morning, the Fantasy Coaches podcast. So if you want to check those out, appreciate that as well. But for these, I'll be doing them around 8, between 8 and 9 o'clock Eastern time. So about 20 minutes. I don't want to go too much. I don't want to so I will appreciate it. Thank you. But again, I don't want these to be long. Again, I did a little intro in the beginning, so I want these to be 15, 20 minutes, just straight talk about fantasy football, about each team a little bit, giving you guys a little bit of fantasy intel on each one of these guys. So again, Jeremy Sprinkle, probably not in 10 or 12 man league, but if you're in a 14 or 16 man league, he's definitely a worthwhile second tight end I want to pick up and see because the opportunity to receive from 1 touchdown last year. He had 7 tight end 3 performances last year, so he's got opportunity to step up, and if Haskins can kind of propel himself to the next level, I think Jeremy Sprinkle could have an opportunity in this offense. We've seen Washington Redskins tight ends over the years become somewhat productive on certain times, so he's definitely a guy in deeper man leagues I'm willing to take a risk on as a sleeper. So that is it for the Washington football team. I don't know if I said the Redskins at all, but I apologize if I did. But Washington football team is going to take some time to get used to this. So I appreciate you guys for listening in to tonight. Again, my name is Steve. I am the host of the Fantasy Coaches podcast. I also am a member of Unwrapped Sports Network as well. They've helped me get onto Sportscaster. Again, this is also streaming on YouTube and Twitter as well. So you can check that out there if you want to there, or you just check it here on Sportscaster too. So I appreciate you guys all for listening. Tune in until tomorrow. I will be back doing, I believe, the Tennessee Titans Again, around probably 9 p.m. tomorrow night, maybe a little bit later, but around 9 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern, I will post it on my Twitter at either Coach's Fantasy or Coach Stephen P. So I appreciate you guys for listening in. Until tomorrow, guys, take care and enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, guys.